Hello, I'm Chef Mark. Welcome to Escoffier Online International Culinary Academy. We're excited to have you joining us this morning or tonight or today. You know, we are an internationally acclaimed school. We have students in over 16 countries, so we welcome them. Some are asleep, but they are awake just for this broadcast. We have students in Asia, in the Middle East, Europe, Central Africa, Central America, North America, so Australia even, not Antarctica yet, we're working on that. So we're on most continents, and we're pleased to have you join us for our weekly webcast that we do for our culinary students. We do it every Saturday at this time, 11 Central Daylight Time. I say internationally acclaimed because many of our students work in the industry and have recommended us to their colleagues and to their friends, also in Switzerland and a student in France, so we're pretty excited about that. You may say, well, how do we get Escoffier's name? Well, Michel Escoffier, his great-grandson, is our senior advisor to the Auguste Escoffier schools, which we have 2 brick and mortar campuses, one in Austin, Texas, and one in Boulder, Colorado. So we also have the online program, and Michel Escoffier advises us. So, of course, he's the president of the Auguste Escoffier Foundation and Museum in Nice, France. It's a great trip. Oh, by the way, yeah, there's a trip to France coming up. I knew there was something why I was going into that French thing, besides Michel Escoffier and Auguste Escoffier, our namesake. We do twice a year a trip to France, and it's led by a local chef, Michel Bouit, and will be October 17th to the 26th. It's a great trip. I know you want to get details about it. We visit Auguste Escoffier's home and museum now, the home of his parents and grandparents. It's a great culinary museum. Lots of great food, markets, seafood and produce, old Nice. We travel to a number of vineyards, olive oil manufactory, confiserie, candy maker. What else did we visit? Perfumeries, and of course the beautiful scenery above Cannes and Nice. If you want to join us, it's a great trip. Very reasonably priced. It's a cook's dream. A lot of you are home cooks. Many more of you are career and professional cooks. So join us for that. It's a life-changing experience. When I went there and saw Escoffier's home, it made it real who this person was. The leading chef, the first celebrity chef of the early part of the 20th century. So we celebrate his legacy today. So I know you'll want to chat. Join our chat. This is a live session. So join our chat. Ask questions if you would. Avoid asking what weather you're from or what's the weather in your town. Try to keep it on the subject so we can scroll through all those questions about food, and that's important for us. But certainly you can ask where someone's from and how the weather is, but kind of clogs up the works there. But feel free to chat with us, talk about food. We're creating a community of cooks. We're an international community of cooks, and we're glad you could join us to share our knowledge and love for great food and wine. We always have some wine after or during our program. So wine is great. I like to use it, and as someone once said, I even like to use it in cooking. But today we're doing a veal shank, and some of you probably know what that dish is. It's not French, it's actually Italian. And we're using a veal shank, and I have it here on the counter for you. So chat if you would, ask questions. You can use a pseudonym. You don't have to put your real name. And we're happy to take your questions on veal, what it may be, what it looks like, how to buy it, what if you can't find it, what a substitute for veal, if you're going to make a veal stock, well, can I use something else? But we're doing a veal shank. So I'd like you to type in what dish you know of or may know of, Italian dish in northern Italy where they make this veal shank dish. What is the name of that? If you get the correct name exactly with the accompanying starch, I'll provide you with a special gift. Not a trip to France, no. But maybe something just as enjoyable that you can use every day. Sound good? All right, so this is fun. We're having a great time. I enjoy cooking. It's my life, and I know you do as well. So feel free to join in. So we have veal shanks today, preparing veal shanks. And I go to a supermarket. It's usually you'll find this strangely enough, not strangely enough, in Italian and Arabic markets, at least in the Chicago area. I grew up in New York City. Also, I lived in San Francisco for a long period of time. Major cities will probably have a little easier luck finding veal. So what is veal, you may ask? So someone already has the question. They're going to tell me.
Osso Buco.
So someone said that the classic Italian dish is Osso Buco. That's correct. So you got a good part of that. I'll show you later on. Get that person's name so we can send them a small gift from our culinary studio here, the Escoffier studio. Get their name and address. So veal is consumed by Mideastern people and by Italian and French. So you'll find in those kind of markets. I found veal breast in Arabic market in Devon Avenue in Chicago. Also find it in Caputo's, Italian markets throughout the Chicagoland area. So veal is prized in Italy. What is veal? Right? Baby calf. This isn't milk fed, or it would be very, very light color. This has grazed somewhat, grained, I guess grain finish they call it. So it's easy to get. You can order online through Strauss Veal Company, like Johann Strauss, the music composer. Strauss, S-T-R-A-U-S-S, from Wisconsin. Of course, Wisconsin's a dairy state just across the border from us. And they have a lot of milk production, so they have baby veal, they have milk-fed veal, they have this baby beef. So a little more pinker in color. So that was great. Yes, Osso Buco. Milanese is the dish we're making today from Milano. So it's a veal shank. I have a casserole, pan, heating. I have some half melted butter, half olive oil. I like to do that when I'm preparing a braised dish. If I use just softened butter, it tends to burn. I like to mix my melted butter with olive oil. A lot of Italian restaurants will do that. They'll buy pure or pumice, known as pomace, olive oil blended with some melted butter. It gives you a little more, it gives you flavor with some of the butter, and the pomace or pumice olive oil gives you the ability for it to not burn so quickly. It raises the smoke point, right? So you can braise and sear with it. You can sear with it and use it to braise and give it color, because sometimes using extra virgin olive oil to cook is kind of expensive. Though it gives it great flavor. So this is a veal shank. What is this section here? Well, like the Italian word osso buco, bone, osso buco, hole, bone with a hole. So when there is what is inside this shank bone. Another thing you need to let me know about. The studio audience cannot answer. Only people who are online can answer. So that's the veal shank. This one was cut close to the knee. So I got a lot of bone on that. So, but in the store, you can't turn the package over because it's right. It's the plastic thing with the red. Oh, that looks great. Whoa, there's a lot of bone in the back. It's life. This was cut also further down, but it's smaller, closer to the foreshank. This is probably cut from the foreshank. You want the hind shank, this size, for braised veal shanks. And I've tied it. So I did like a little parcel post tie on there. You may not know what a parcel post is, but when we used to ship snail mail, you would tie things up with string. So you would tie this up. And it keeps the meat together. It's not really necessary. I don't need to tie this smaller piece of the veal shank up. You may say, what's that purple color there? That's the food dye. They need to roll that. USDA inspector rolls down on the meat, the seal, USDA, and whatever grade it may be. Question coming in, or a statement?
We've got to answer. Bone marrow.
Right, so someone said, they answered the question correctly. What is this inside this shank bone? Bone marrow. So that's an enjoyable part of eating this dish. Is if you look at the Mediterranean diet pyramid, which is different than the American, if there is such thing as American diet pyramid, there's a Mediterranean diet pyramid. They have fat like that, but don't have a lot of it, so they can eat more of it since their diet is more grains and plants and fish and some meat. So we go, oh, that's terrible, that bone marrow. Well, it probably would be terrible if you have a high fat intake, but not so if you follow the Mediterranean diet, more grains, legumes, starches, and fish. So that's really wonderful, and that goes throughout the bone. So you want to get the veal shank that has the bone marrow on both sides. There's some in there, but I'm not saying get gypped, but unless you go to a market where they actually have them cut, you say, can you turn it over for me? And there's one market here that does that, Mariano's. And they go, oh no, can I have another one? So the guy's looking at me, look at this guy, he must know what he's talking about. Not the usual house husband trying to shop, and he's nervous walking around the store, not sure what to do. So I have that, that's a bone marrow, right? So great flavor, also known as à la moelle in French. It's used to be served with filet mignon. We pop that out and we poach it, then we saute it. Now that's good eating, that's good fat, right? So I have my skillet or my casserole dish on the stove heating up, and we'll be cooking this very shortly. But now that I rinsed it, washed it dry, patted it dry, I'm going to salt. I like to use the sea salt on both sides. It's a little damp yet, so that's fine. I'm not going to cut off this elastin here, as the meat will come out. Again, that's food dye, so that'll go away. But I do salt my protein before I cook them. Don't make the mistake of doing it after. It actually bounces off caramelized meat. You want to make sure you salt the meat prior to cooking so it can actually be absorbed into the flesh. So since it's a little damp, I allow it to sit for a few moments so it gets absorbed into the flesh so the meat has savory flavor, right? That's important. Same with making a fried chicken. If you're going to salt the chicken after, the salt just bounces off the fried pieces. Same with meat. So always salt the wet tissue. I choose not to pepper because for me, from my years of experience, pepper tends to burn in that medium. I don't want to burn the peppercorn. It's a dried berry. I put the pepper after because it kind of cuts that fatty flavor. Question coming in.
Can you do that with the marrow from other meats?
So can you cook the marrow from other meats? Veal and beef marrow, very popular. I see in this market, it's a very international market where I live, is Indian, Mideastern, Italian, Greek, Lithuanian. They have beef marrow. So there it is. It's twice the size of that. It's about 2 inches in thick. And you poach that, and then you saute it. So it's lamb marrow, maybe not, because lamb shanks are a little more narrower. But and pork marrow isn't. It doesn't have the structure, the musculature to produce. So it's beef and veal have, or any other large animal has marrow. So really great. Another question coming in.
I understand that bone marrow is high cholesterol. It sounds like it should be included sparingly. Is this true?
I'm going to ask that question as soon as I move over to the stove now, and we're going to walk over and someone say, well, yes, bone marrow is the fat, right, that's inside. And if you follow the American diet, or whatever that may be, high in fat, you probably don't eat a lot of that. But if you follow the Mediterranean diet, you're allowed to, like the French and the Italians and the Greeks, they need some fat because it isn't a heavy beef diet for them. So in that case, consuming bone marrow or foie gras when you follow the Mediterranean diet is actually good. It's bad if you follow the American diet. There's a lot of fat to begin with, so you're right. So yes, high in cholesterol. Just a little bit goes a long way. And when it gets braised, it's sort of like a savory meat preserve, right? And that's kind of cool. They also have a certain spoon the British use to take the marrow out of the bone. So it's actually even a side dish, even for the British, right? Okay, let's go into the stove and cook up this Osso Buco. That was a great question, by the way. I encourage you to have as many questions as you want to ask. It can be about, what kind of pan is that, or do you like gas or electric, or what do you use to sanitize your counter? I use vinegar. I use vinegar water. That sanitizes my counter. Right? Straight white vinegar, inexpensive, cheap white vinegar that you wouldn't use for cooking, that you would use to wash windows and the like. So feel free to ask questions. I have this casserole, as they call it. So it's a soup pot. And you can also salt the flour if you like. Perhaps you could pepper the flour if you like. But I'm of the belief that pepper burns. So I put it on roasts and meats afterwards. Because remember, pepper was first used to mask rancid meat. It no longer is. I don't believe in North America anyway. So the black pepper, when freshly ground, the Indian black pepper from Tellicherry, India, Southeast India, near Goa, or even the Sarawak peppercorn from Indonesia, which is larger. When you buy that stuff whole and you grind that fresh, you're getting a beautiful flavor. So it's hot, the pan's hot. I have the nice half clarified butter and half olive oil. I got a little sear going. Maybe it's a little too hot. Got a little sear going there. We discard that flour since it had, raw meat in it. And make sure you don't cross-contaminate your cutting board. So I sanitize it. Actually, best just to discard it. Like I said, a little more of that it's mostly melted butter and some olive oil. Let's take a look. Oh, it's going to brown up nice. So that's browning. You don't want to burn it. We'll let that get a little color. The flour helps it get that color. And we'll give it a little texture to the sauce as well. You can do this with lamb shanks as well. You can even make this with chicken or beef. Do a large chicken breast. You can do it with beef shanks. Well, beef shanks are a little chewier, right? I see those in the market all the time. They make great stock. A lot of people say to us, oh, I can't find beef bones to make my beef stock. You can use beef meat, like stew meat. Not able to find any bones for some reason. A lot of places don't have bones, and that's something that people do a lot of by making stock or soup. But you can find soup bones. Kind of look like Osso Buco, only they're beef and they're much larger. So that's going to brown very nicely. Now what I also have here is small diced onion. This happens to be a Bardelli onion, so it's very sweet. I have some chopped celery. And I have some small diced carrot. This has to be exact, but sort of a small dice, right? About like that. Small diced onion, small diced carrot, fresh garlic, and some basil leaves.
They would like to know
What this pan is? Someone asked, what pan is that? It's actually, it's a 2-quart soup pot or casserole dish. It has a thick bottom, not unlike the Calphalon brand, which is very nice, or the Centurion brand. It's thick bottomed. And since I'm going to braise and sear in here. I like to use the higher pan because I'm going to fill it with liquid. Now, I don't always have that. You can successfully make this in a smaller pan. Since we're in a commercial kitchen, we have these larger pots, right? But cast iron skillet works very nice for that. When I make this at home, I have a smaller soup pot I make it in. Another question, you got it.
I would like to make clarified butter that about 2 pounds so I can have it on hand. How long would you keep it in the refrigerator or can you freeze it?
That's a great question. The question was, I'd like to make 2 pounds of clarified butter. How do I do so? And how would I store it? How long would it last in the fridge? So you see how nice that's browning? So clarified butter, 2 pounds of clarified butter will probably give you about 1.25 pounds of clarified butter minus the milk solids. So what I usually do is, if I have enough time, and many times I do, I just put the butter in the microwave 2 or 3 minutes until it separates. It actually comes to a little boil. Then I let that rest. And I pour off the clarified butter, the butter oil, and all the solids, milk solids, remain on the bottom. Or put it in a pot. Nice, on the pilot is fine if you do a lot of cooking that day, or put on low, be careful, don't overfill your soup pot with butter that will bubble over and catch on fire. That's happened to me with the 80 pounds of butter a few times in the restaurant. So you need a fire extinguisher. So only fill it halfway in the pot, Put the 2 pounds of butter in. Low heat, let it melt. And maybe just bring it to just a little simmer so it does clarify, right? That convecting motion of the bubbles, the heat. You'll see what rises to the top is impurities and foam. Skim that off. Pour off the yellow butter. And the milk solids and salt remains. But you want to use unsalted butter. And once you refrigerate that lasts. There's no milk solids or dairy in there to spoil or to corrode. Get pure butter fat, like it lasts pretty much indefinitely. So I have 2 pounds of clarified butter you'll have it for a good period of time. Then you just scoop some out. When I don't use it, I put it back in the fridge and it remains solid. When I want it, I put it on top of the pilot or I zap it in the microwave. That's a great question on that. The clarified butter, it gives you want to use that for cooking fried eggs, but not for an omelet. Anything you go to eat, you don't want to use clarified butter unless you go to sear. If you go to eat the dish, use melted butter.
They still eat it before it is not refrigerated. Do you need to refrigerate it after opening, or does it get rancid without refrigerating?
The ghee, which I have at home, is sold shelf stable because it's been poured, it's been boiled and clarified and sealed like any hot liquid in a jar. That can sit out. I mean, it sits out in India in 120-degree temperature. It's clarified butter in its pure form. I don't refrigerate it because it's very hard to get out once you refrigerate it. And so if you use it infrequently, you can put it in the refrigerator. I have mine in the closet, my ghee, because it's clarified butter. And it's great, and it does not spoil. That's another great question. So I brown that now. I'm going to pour off the excess fat that's in my pan. I'm going to pour off the excess. See all that brown? I might just leave have a little flavor. I don't have too much caramelization in there, right? So this excess, that'll make the food bitter. See, that's what the peppers would be if you if you peppered your meat. It'd be very bitter, you don't want that. Yes, sir?
Should the meat be at room temperature as
The question was, should the meat be at room temperature prior to cooking? Yes, especially for large roasts. You'll find that, and this meat was room temperature, you'll find that as you wish to roast or saute something, it cooks better at room temperature. It's softened and it's warmer. It's 70 degrees or so. I'm not saying leave it out in the sun for 3 hours, but room temperature, especially for roast, allows the meat to roast better and avoid the discoloration. That's a great question. So let's cook up the nice mirepoix, right? Mirepoix, another French culinary term, right? Mirepoix meaning onions, carrots, and celery. And mirepoix used for making a stock or a soup. 50% onion, 25% carrot, 25% celery. That's the mirepoix. That's what we have here. Though it's probably a little more onion than, it's probably a little more carrot and celery than onion. So that's the mirepoix. We're going to brown that. The meat looks nice, huh? So it's a nice piece of meat, nice color. You'll find Osso Buco in restaurants, $36 or so menu price. And if they do a good job, then I'm happy. If they're not, then I'm not happy as a guest chef. So we have that on high heat now. We're going to let that cook up. Go ahead, questions coming in. We like those questions. Well, if you make a good osso, you mean the Osso Buco? If you make a good Osso Buco, the thing is, you see, this is like one per person. So not much will be left over. So I have four of these. I have 2 large and 2 small. So I can eat this one, and maybe I keep the small one left over. Leftover cooked beef doesn't have cooked veal. It won't last forever. Cooked beef put in the freezer deteriorates very faster than raw beef or meat in the freezer. So yes, you sure can freeze it, but it won't last 3-4 months. It'll deteriorate in quality.
Is that the same in the Holy Trinity?
Well, someone said that mirepoix, this is the French mirepoix, 50% onion, 25% celery, 25% carrot. Someone asked about, is this the same as the Holy Trinity? Well, that's the New Orleans, French-inspired mirepoix. The difference with the Trinity, the Holy Trinity in the French, in the New Orleans mirepoix is what is added instead of one of the items. See if you know, tell me what vegetable is used for the Cajun New Orleans mirepoix, known as the Holy Trinity. It's 3 vegetables. Another question that we're going to ask today. Then we'll send you a certificate of participation for a correct answer. Make sure you get that student's name or that person's name who knew about the Osso Buco milanese. So we got that sweating. I have Turkish bay leaf in there. No, I kind of prefer the California bay leaf, but it's a little larger, more fragrant. Turkish bay leaf tends to be a little older than Turkish bay leaf as it makes its way here. So I'm going to add at this point, I'm going to add a little rum. I add the rum because, well, it makes it a little sweeter. So I'm going to put a little rum in there. And just flame it up, a little rum. You're going to have that Captain Morgan spice rum, right? Now, that's not traditional Italian recipe, but the cognac makes it too bitter, so I kind of like the rum. It gives a nice flavor to the veal. Yes, sir, speak your mind over there. The what? No, it's green pepper. So the Holy Trinity used in New Orleans for Creole, and the Cajuns don't use the Holy Trinity. The Creoles use the Holy Trinity: green pepper, onion, and celery. So we got that. We flamed that. We had some diced tomato, tomato concassé, the bay leaves. Gonna add some garlic, right? Don't be on the mistaken concept that every Italian dish has lots of garlic in it. That's Italian-American cooking. Garlic is just very sparingly as a flavor enhancer and not to overpower the dish. So if you travel to Italy, you say, where's the garlic that is in all Italian food? So garlic's in there just for a little flavoring. And I might add just a little olive oil. Dennis, would you give me that olive oil up top in that small bottle? Because I want to add just a little more to that. Thank you, sir. I want to put just a little more olive oil in there because I want to then add some flour to make my roux right in the pan, okay? So let's add the flour. We make a roux, right? Equal parts flour and butter. Does brining? Flambeing. When you flambe the rum, what burns off the alcohol in case you want to serve it to children. Okay? That's why we do it. That's why we flambe it. You use red, you don't have to use rum. You can use cognac. You don't need to put that step in there. That's an optional step. You don't need it at all. But you do need to add white wine. Red wine is not used in Osso Buco. Have a nice Simi Russian River Chardonnay, Simi Vineyards. I'm going to have a little taste to make sure it's okay, right? Very important. Very nice.
Is that all-purpose flour, Chef?
Nice Chardonnay. That's all-purpose flour was the question, yes. So a Chardonnay is nice with this because it has that grapefruit tone to it. The more robust than the Sauvignon Blanc. So I'm going to put some of that. I taste it, so it's fine. That'll moisten it. What did you say, Dennis?
Can whole wheat flour be used?
There's no reason to use whole wheat flour in that, but you sure can. Why not? I know you're probably trying to be healthy, but if you follow the Mediterranean diet, most of the food they make is healthy. Yeah, whole wheat flour will be fine to use. So look at that. So you see I have the flour added in there. It's making a roux. What do I want to put next in there? Probably some stock, right? Well, speak your mind there. He keeps waving at me.
Can I make the roux gluten-free?
Can you make the dish gluten-free? You don't have to put flour at all in there. You can use rice flour. It'll be nice and delicate and thin, which is nice. And the rice flour has its use in many dishes, naturally in Japanese foods, to thicken certain yosanabes or stews they make. So yeah, you can add rice flour and then you'll have gluten-free, and you can use a cornstarch as well instead of flour. So those are two great suggestions. Thanks for bringing that up regarding gluten-free. So that's going to heat up now. We'll come to a boil. I may say to myself, well, I don't know if I like the color of that. It's not as brown as much as I'd like it to be. All right? So I like to use the little chef's secret gravy master. Chefs used to make this during Escoffier's time, known as blackjack. They take sugar and just caramelize it until it became this color. And so Gravy Master came out probably after or during World War II, so relatively new. Now, you put a few drops, be careful. It doesn't have a dispenser top to it, and that gives that nice color. Little browner color to like your turkey gravy. I use it in turkey gravy all the time. Because I like my turkey gravy just a little darker than the normal turkey gravy. So you see, it's getting the color I want. And that's going to reduce very nice and slow in the oven. I'm going to put a foil lid on it. Matter of fact, I ain't even going to cook it on the stovetop. You need to put the Osso Buco in the oven. But many times I have, at home it's a 4-burner stove, right? Don't always have all the space, like in a restaurant. So I'm going to seal that, and I have my oven on 350. I'm going to put it into the oven for about 30 minutes, or 30, 35 minutes. Now, while that's cooking, I want to finish off my risotto milanese, right? So this is the Osso Buco milanese, Milan style, Milano. So I made the risotto, then I stopped the cooking process, which is a French method. The French make the risotto halfway, we put it on a sheet pan, let it cool, then we put it back into a pan when someone orders it. So if you make risotto at home, you're not going to usually make it all the way through. And you got to stir it every so often. Don't feel that you have to sit there for 40 minutes stirring it, but by stirring that, you get the nice creamy texture. And what makes it Milanese? What is the spice? For another special certificate, what is the spice we use to give the rice this color for risotto Milanese? So then the question I'm asking our virtual audience. What is the spice we use to make? Go ahead, Dennis. Dennis is my, he reads the questions to me.
What is the difference in cooking on an electric stove versus gas?
Someone asked, what is the difference between cooking on an electric versus a gas stove? In a commercial kitchen, electric stove has a flat top. So you have low, medium, and high settings with the electric dial, and you know where they are. At home, it's those electric coils, right? So you have to adjust that low, medium, or high, and you have to get used to that heat. With the flame, you can kind of see. A lot of people put in a larger diameter gas pipe in their home because they want that kind of restaurant quality heat. So the difference is I can see it. The electric, I have to know where the hot spots are on my electric flat top. Oh, that's right. I asked the question, what is the spice used? Saffron, correct. So I want that person's name and address so we can send them a nice certificate. The saffron, the world's costliest spice. It's the saffron is from what How is saffron processed? I mean, what is it? Is it a plant? Is it a vegetable? That's the next question. So it's saffron, correct. What is it? Where does it come from? All right. So where does it come from? That's the next question. You can see it there, right? And does it have uses other than for cooking? At these prices, every bit counts. I'll put it back afterwards. Get it back in.
Use the bottom of the shank instead.
Dennis, can you repeat that question for me, sir?
Can you use the bottom of the shanks instead?
The question was, can you use the bottom of the shanks instead? I'm not sure what that question means. Maybe you can rephrase that question. Can you use the bottom of the shanks instead? I'm not sure what that means. Maybe you can redo that question for me.
All right, I think the answer is stated from the
Oh, right. So the person got the answer correct. What is saffron from? It's the stamen, which are the reproductive parts of a plant or a flower inside a crocus, which blooms in the spring in Spain, though the Spanish long ago couldn't keep up with the saffron production. Most of the saffron today comes from India and Pakistan. It's the world's costliest spice. What else is saffron used in? Besides culinary. So someone said that saffron is used in tea. No, it's not, but saffron is used to make saffron-colored robes, right? So now we're going to dish up. We're going to dish up our Osso Buco because it's ready. Osso Buco is ready. I'm going to rescue my saffron that's sitting here.
used in herbs.
Okay, so we're going to switch over to our camera, and now I'm going to serve up for you the nice Osso Buco milanese. Here's the risotto milanese, nice and creamy. Remember, when preparing risotto, it should be creamy. It should be like a oatmeal, not like the thick instant oatmeal. It should have a nice creamy texture. You need to serve it right away. So we're going to put the risotto milanese right on this nice serving dish right here. I like to use a towel for my risotto. And then I have the very lovely
Chef, what are your thoughts
Osso Buco.
your thoughts on using a pressure cooker for these dishes?
So someone asked, what are my thoughts on using a pressure cooker for these dishes? Once you've browned it, that's a wonderful way to make any braised dish. I hardly recommend using a pressure cooker. It's nice and slow, right? And yeah, that's great. Best way to make a braised dish is, one of the best ways is in a pressure cooker or in a crock pot. It's the official pot of Illinois is a crock pot.
Give the price of saffron today.
I bought this, 1 ounce was $9. It takes a ton to make 100 pounds of saffron. It's outrageous spice. It's used for coloring, of course, in a lot of Spanish dishes. So I know what I need. I need a spoon. So there's Osso Buco. This one I didn't tie up. This is the one I made earlier today. Get up in the wee hours of the morning to make a nice Osso Buco for you. The large piece, the small piece. Nappe or coat that nice sauce on the top there. Oh, this is so beautiful. What do you think, Dennis?
Beautiful. I'm home.
And then to make the Osso Buco Milanese authentic, you have to put the gremolata. Gremolata or gremolata is a topping of minced garlic, chopped Italian parsley, and lemon zest. That's the gremolata. And that you sprinkle on top.
You asked what is saffron also used for. It says saffron is
Right.
rice dish.
That is used for fish, rice dishes. It's also, I have a book on aphrodisiac foods. We can talk about that some other time. It's also used to color clothing, to make robes, and to make saffron bread. So wasn't that great? Make Osso Buco in 40 minutes, so pretty exciting. I'm glad that you joined us today for our Escoffier Online International Culinary Academy. Also visit learntocook.com for free recipes. And this is a beautiful dish anyone would love to make and enjoy. I know, I wish you were here to enjoy it with us. And we'll take any last questions while I taste this dish. I know I needed some wine, so we'll finish up our class today, as always, do with some wine. Simi Vineyards, the Russian River Chardonnay.
Will the recipe be posted, Chef?
That's spectacular, if I do say so myself. And our recipe usually goes up within a few days on our portal. So thanks for joining us, and bon appetit. Have a great week. Bye-bye.